What's up? I'll be back later. Just wanted to show you my hair's progress. Growth for days. My hair is not stagnant, so how is it even possible that I am? Growth, okay? Growth for days. Growth. It is growing. It is thriving. It is doing an amazing thing. Amen. Need to trim the ends, but it's growing. Like what? I unraveled 4 instead of 3 because I'm just really in a rush to get done. I want this to be the last week where I'm busy with my hair, and this is what it's all looking like. This is what it's all looking like. Yes, yes, yes. My hair is growing, y'all. Yes, yes, yes. Next time we're gonna do a trim. But like, yeah, what? I don't even think my hair's ever been this long before, even last time. Even before I lost my career and everything, and was not able to therefore take hair. And so therefore my little strategy is working wonderfully. It's working absolutely wonderfully due to the fact that I have been doing mini braids. Well, this is the first time I've experimented with mini braids, but yes, it works. And my hair is still dry right now. I was able to unravel it all dry with limited matting. Just what do you call this thing? Because there were so many, there wasn't a lot of product buildup that caused matting. Yeah, matting's the thing. That's the word that I'm looking for. My hair is growing, y'all. It's growing. Yeah, I'm gonna do 4 different braids out of this concoction over here. But like, hallelujah, you know what I'm saying? Okay, cool. Beans and bananas. See you later. Hi, how's it in the name of Christ? How you doing? It's your girl Crancake, Karabo. I hope you're good. I hope you're peachy. I hope you're stellar, and I hope you're in a neat little bunch. If you're not, welcome to the party. So, today is the 14th of May 2024, but it's actually the 13th because I've skipped over to the next day. Let me just put some caveats out there. Kindly look out for my captions. They're not always accurate. They sometimes use a small g for God. They're sometimes the wrong word altogether. They're sometimes misspelled, etc. All stuff like that. One day in the future, God willing, I will edit them when I have an incentive to, but currently nobody's watching my long form content, so it's not really worth it to get into all that. But for the small little minuscule potential audience that might be watching me, it's not my thing to just leave them like that. I don't have an incentive to correct them, okay? Alrighty, next up, I'm very potentially wearing application makeup. If I am, you'll know. If I'm not, you'll also know. If I'm wearing it, it's going to be falling off and on my face. It's an app, I'm not shapeshifting. And then I have a segment. I just want to really get this out the way fast and furious. A lot of times when I'm feeling like trash, I just want to get it out the way real quickly. I'm only human after all, I'm only human after all, I'm only human after all. Don't take a jab at me. It's just basically a segment in my videos, an empathy segment essentially, where I pinch my cheeks in an attempt to blush them. Yeah, that you might see that I've got blood in my body, that if you roll over me with a steamroller, I'll probably die. If you punch me, I'll say ouch. Maybe even end up with a bruise, stuff like that. So just be a little bit more empathetic because I'm human like everybody else. Something that people in the last days just really could not care less about. Indeed, it is written in God's word that because of an increase in lawlessness, the love of many will grow cold. Sorry. I apologize to blow my nose in front of you, but it is what it is. This is raw. This is real time. This is it. We are done though. No more bombarding you with any such activity as that. Okay, so let's just get straight into this. Alright, so there is this woman whose testimony, I can't really call it a testimony. It was more, a testimony implies a lot of times that's gonna keep happening because it's that time of the day. A testimony implies that somebody has actually gotten breakthrough, that God has come through for them in some way. When, however, a person is just sharing their horror story, it's just the sharing of a horror story, the sharing of a horror story, the sharing of a horror story. And this woman was sharing her horror story in this one channel for horror stories. She wrote in, the name of the channel is African Confessions. It's just this dude who came up with the YouTube channel to basically share everything that people go through in Africa in the spiritual. It's largely Christian, that channel, but sometimes it's just unbiblical entirely, so I can't really call it a Christian channel. I wouldn't recommend anybody go watch it other than for the curiosity of gauging what in the world happens in Africa with sorcery and all that jazz, right? His name is Brother Nashe, and he takes in confessions of people that are happy to write in to him to share their feats in this continent, on this continent. So anyway, this woman writes in to basically just, I guess, get, you know, misery loves company, somebody pampering her, perhaps a couple of people in the comment section to help her feel better about her terrible situation, treachery, really. Herein lies the situation that she was in. Okay, this woman was married to a diabolical beast, like an intensely diabolical beast. When he married her, she was struggling, she was poor, she was taken pretty much out of grandmother's house and into his house, much like a Cinderella, but without the abuse from home. And she was given an opulent lifestyle, so essentially going from bathing out of a skotteltjie, a little, you know, bucket, bathing out of a bucket, going from peeing outside, because that's where the bathroom is, the toilet, the outside toilet, it's not inside the house, like basically, you know, lowly African lifestyle type thing, to you have an ensuite bedroom where you've got your own bathroom in the bedroom, you know, attached to the bedroom, and you've got several other bathrooms in the house. Essentially just an opulent lifestyle. Okay, she was given an opulent lifestyle. She married what would be the tantamount or equivalent of a wealthy man. Okay, and this man took her pretty much from the blasies. Okay, he took her from the country, the bundus, the bushes, rural areas. Yes, I'm trying to accommodate as many countries version of that word as possible. Yeah, she was taken from the rural areas and just placed in like urban society, like a bit of a Johannesburg. And initially she was kind of enjoying herself, but then she started to make observations. She was a housewife. She was not necessarily mistreated by this man. However, when you're home a lot, if basically all you do is homework, and that you raise children at home, you cook, you prepare a table for your husband when he gets back home from work, when your work is to be a homemaker, basically, you tend to know every crack and crevice of the house, and you're also sometimes very experimental. If you get bored during the day, you look through stuff and you find things. And this woman, over the years of being married to this man, came to just happen upon, she found things in the house, basically occult paraphernalia, do you understand, that belonged to her husband. And initially she wanted to just disregard the living daylights out of it, until one day one of her like cousins, it was not her cousin, but it was a cousin-in-law, like his cousin, one of his cousins passed away. And after this cousin passed away, this man that was her husband, what is happening with my computer? Seriously? Oh, it's just restarting on its own. Oh my goodness, like I was in the middle of something, but anyway, we'll just continue to talk until it's completely on again, because I was uploading shorts and I don't know why it did that. Maybe it did that because it does it every so often. Whatever, moving on, we'll be okay. We'll still get our shorts up as soon as the computer is back on again. This woman was, she overheard her husband's cousin, her cousin-in-law, passed away, right? And then she overheard her husband speaking to somebody on the phone. And she overheard this man saying, "It is done, but I cannot be at the funeral because it's going to mess with the ritual. But I will send for my wife. I'll make some kind of an excuse for why I'm not there, but my wife will go to the funeral. Otherwise, if my presence is there, the deal is not going to go through. If I go and touch anything to do with all of the ceremonies of burying the man that is now late, whatever it is that we've done here, concluded will have been a waste of time. However, I will definitely, my wife will be there. My wife will be at the funeral, so this does not look super duper weird." This man, therefore, did exactly that. He was not there for his cousin's anything. He claimed to be on a business trip and sent his wife to go Tsidisa, that would be to comfort the family that is bereaved. Everything, the whole nine, you know, just the cooking, helping out with preparations for the funeral. On the day of the funeral, the wife was the one that was there, while this man was allegedly, apparently, on a business trip, but he wasn't even on a business trip. He was at home, and his wife was there with him, seeing him being at home and everything, and she would ask, but why aren't you going to your own cousin's funeral? And this man would be like, don't ask too many questions. He would get passive aggressive with her when he wasn't generally aggressive with her. He got, however, in this instance, aggressive with her. Well, not physically, but he basically told her, like, don't ask too many questions. Just go to the funeral. Just do ABC. And do not tell those people that I'm at home. I cannot be at that funeral. I can't be part of the processions and the rituals and whatnot. Not processions, sorry, but the ceremonies. However, I've given you all this money to give to them. I've also sent them money. You know, it was my cousin, I'm bereaved, but I can't be at the funeral. And the wife poked and prodded away at him on some, but why? But why? Until ultimately his aggressions, they caused her to be stayed from continuing to ask, because she'd never seen him that aggressive before in responding to her. So she was the one that was there while he was apparently away on a business trip. And that's why he couldn't be there for the cousin's funeral. However, his presence was felt allegedly at the funeral or throughout the week, because he contributed quite handsomely to all of the processions of said funeral as that. He paid for caskets and catering and all that jazz, so he was greatly appreciated by the family for his contributions to this event, right? So nobody really held him hostage to the fact that he didn't go to his own cousin's funeral, because he was apparently there in spirit, because he supported financially and what have you. And of course the wife kept it mum. She kept quiet, that it was burdening her. That's why she wrote in anonymously to African Confessions, because she had no one to talk to about this. And so she decided that she's going to talk to like YouTube about her husband's general stanky behavior. After that whole thing that happened with the cousin, she then started to, you know, put the pieces of the puzzle together, add two and two, and realize that her man is involved in far grander a depth of occult and magic than what she initially imagined, what she initially thought, because she found paraphernalia, like occult stuff in the house that belonged to him, but she didn't think it was so deep so as to eventually result in a human sacrifice. Like, the death of the cousin for her was like, just how deep does this rabbit hole go? Like, just what is my husband involved in? And what is it that he does to achieve all the wealth that he has? He was a businessman, and lo and behold, after the funeral happened, this man came into quite a handsome business deal, some kind of a record-breaking business deal with his partner. And he, of course, showered her with gifts, as many purses as she wanted, stuff like that. She never lacked anything, type thing. And he was like, yeah, see, if you just keep quiet, like, this is your life, like, just relax, make like a flower and bloom. That's what this man was telling her, his wife. And this woman was supposed to just shut up, because apparently all that women are interested in is being catered to, provided for, put under a roof that is very, very cozy, and the rest we ought then just, you know, be mum. But this woman was not content, because at the end of the day, as human beings, we've got values, we've got standards, we've got societal underpinnings that regulate how it is that we ought to operate. And when somebody's out of those boundaries, we do get uncomfortable. Not a lot of people are happy to be privy to crimes being committed in broad daylight in front of them, with them being witnesses. They tend to be scared and disquieted by such activity as this. When you're not used to just watching murder happen in your backyard, you're not going to just keep quiet and live a happy life because, hey, the gangsters just every so often, out of a sense of indebtedness to you, give you a whole bunch of money for keeping quiet, for shutting up. At the end of the day, if you're not used to witnessing murder, you are going to have some kind of thing brewing in you, stewing, until you burst. And this woman, this issue brewed and stewed in her until she finally burst to African Confessions. And she was bereft. She was extremely sad, broken, because to her it was like, who did I marry? For years I've been with a man, and my husband is a prolific criminal in ways that are not calculable, and so therefore they're more ominous because it's spiritual. She understood that her husband was a spiritual serial killer. He was a sociopath and a psychopath that is undetected by society because of the fact that he looked clean on paper on the surface. She was privy to this, and she would go on. That was not the only event. That's what I'm getting at. Once she realized that her husband killed his own cousin in a human sacrifice ritual, she then started noticing other random things that were happening to them. One time she said that they got into a car accident, quite a bad one, and him, her husband, her and she was in this vehicle accident with some other dude in the car, and that dude was mangled beyond recognition, while she and her husband came out spotless. And when she came out of that, given just the gravity of that accident, even the police were like, we don't even understand how you guys got out. My goodness, like both of you, husband, wife, and this man stood there at the it was a crime scene, but it looked like a regular accident scene, when the body was being recovered of this man that passed away. And he just stood there unemotional and detached and just giving a statement to the police to basically corroborate his comprehensive innocence. The person who was driving was the person who passed away, so there was nothing that could ever be laid as a claim or a charge against the husband for drunken driving or reckless and negligent driving, because the driver is the one that passed away, and he was the only one that passed away. And the carnage was so excruciating, like the vehicle itself would look like a crumpled piece of paper, so everybody in there should have been dead or severely compromised, disembodied, or disabled or something, and they came out with a little bit of whiplash, while the person that died just as anybody in a car accident of that nature would pass away, and he was the only one. The two of them were strangely spat out of the vehicle before it did any of that stuff. They didn't even need to get taken out by a jaws of life or anything like that. And when this woman woke up from her, shock of having been in the accident, and also upon observing the behavior of her husband at the vehicle accident scene, that's the thing I think that pushed her to write in to Brother Nashe. She was like, was this another human sacrifice ritual? She saw her husband's behavior, she gauged her husband's behavior as inappropriate for newly in an accident, first and foremost. So you should have a lot more shock in your body than that. You should be a little bit more disoriented than that. You should not be so sentient, so alert, so thriving in all of your faculties that you would give a crystal clear statement to the police at that scene, at that time. She was disoriented. He wasn't. And he was giving a statement to the police at the scene of the accident, almost like he was creating for himself an alibi, like somebody who was acting guilty, however trying to say to the police, I didn't do it. I couldn't have, because I wasn't driving. I wasn't. The husband was the details as well of the accident, that he was given to the police. This is what happened. We then saw this. Just the amount of detail that was in that report to the police was, to this woman, very shocking, who was still in and of herself being checked, her eyes being checked there by the paramedics and what have you, type setup thing, whatever it is that you would do at a vehicle accident scene. Okay. Yeah. This woman just made an observation of her husband chatting with the police, walking around, not even sitting, being checked by the paramedics or whatever, out here basically tailing the police left and right wherever it is that they went to give his statement when he didn't even need to. He was not driving. He could have just shut up and the police made a conclusion about what happened here, but he saw it fit to give all this information to the police. And again, there was not, the man who passed away was somebody close to the husband, right? And there was not an appropriate amount of grief, at least according to the wife, in her husband for the fact that this human being has passed away. Like, if you were still, alert, with your faculties intact, sentient, at a vehicle accident scene that you've just gotten into, while making an observation of your sister being dead, or your mother, or your child, somebody close to you, you would probably be berserk. You would go ballistic. Your mind would you would not be okay. You'd be mourning. You'd be in mourning because somebody has passed away. You would not have time to think about giving a statement to the police. And this man was just indifferent to the fact that somebody close to him had died, and this stuff made the wife ask herself this question: just how diabolical is my husband? How many people per annum, frankly, does he murder in order to get ahead? Because there's the cousin, now there's these things that are weird that keep happening. What is the scale of my husband's murders? Like, what under heaven do I not know that he is involved in? He is extremely evil, and whenever I raise it, he gets aggressive with me. It got to a point where the man he stopped being sweet husband and started being, because of the initial questions that she was asking, he was less sweet towards her. He was never abusive or anything like that towards her in a way that would warrant a whole bunch of her girlfriends sitting her down on some girl. Are you really gonna stay with this man? Right? That he was not that kind of like level of aggression. However, he was involved in something very, very nefarious. He was involved in some pretty diabolical things, and the wife came to know of it. And despite her being wined, dined, and taken shopping, having been extracted from what would be the tenement of abject poverty, it just all did not matter. Somewhere along the way, she even wrote and said that I would much rather be in my grandmother's house in those meager conditions, bathing in a skottelgie out like in my bedroom, taking a walk outside in the cold of night to urinate because we don't have an in-house bathroom. I would much rather go back to those lowly conditions than have to deal with this level of diabolicalism. It's like I can feel that there is something ominous in the house. Something evil is encircling me all day and every day, and my husband is involved in it, and there is nothing I can do. So I just wanted to write in, Brother Nashi, to let you know, to just basically to get prayers or condolences, I don't know what you want to call it, just any kind of misery loves company, moral support from your audience, because I am married to the spawn of Satan, and I do not know how to handle. I do not know how to deal. I have no clue under heaven. One second. Yeah, the computer's back on, so I'm busy just trying to reload my shorts. Yeah, this woman was like, I would much rather be back at my grandmother's house in those lowly conditions, because at least there was a clarity of conscience. There was peace. There was normalness. There was not this depth of wickedness that I live with every single day. My husband is evil. I don't know what he's involved in, but I know he's involved in something very dark, and I don't know how to deal. I told you that story because while I was working out today, it's Monday, okay? Or at least it was Monday. It is now Tuesday morning. I got a flash vision of me essentially being that wife, but never mind that flash vision on its own, alright? But I am coming here to communicate to you guys some dreams that I had the past night that have created in me quite the somber spirit. Like, I'm not okay. Today, exercise helps. It goes quite a long way, alright? But one second. Exercise helps, alright? It goes a long way to make me feel not slightly better, but significantly better. It really has a massive impact on me. If I were to tell you just how flattened to the ground and frankly livid I was earlier, I was bubbling with a feverish anger at the consistent persistence by these diabolical men. And what especially got to me was the one in particular that I dreamt about is a professing Christian, alright? And he has already been rebuked and for a season was, I guess, seasonally convicted, but unprepared, however, now to walk away. Has he then gone back to the drawing board? And for me, it's like, the Bible says, guys, if anything causes you to sin, like I said, he's a professing Christian and he was convicted. A man that was raised in the church and everything, alright? Feeling disquieted by the prospect of going to hell and stuff like that. However, being so super megalomaniacal and also obsessed with a woman that does not belong to him, that he passed up, he acted a fool type establishment thing, then told himself that there's no way, I'm not letting this go, and then goes back to like the drawing board. I'm so sorry for this, like these edits in the background, they are distracting me and I struggle to multitask. I got angry because for me it's like, when is this ever going to come to an end? When are there going to be a cessation of hostilities against my person and persistences? And how many times do you have to listen to a woman feeling squeamish at the prospect of sorcery and being with a man like this? How many times must you be the stuff of worms enough to cause a woman to be squeamish, bilious, nauseous? How many times does a woman have to say gross for you to realize that it ought not content any man or woman for that matter to take in their stride, creating that level of nausea in anybody? Like, why are you quiet? Why are you not disquieted, by somebody finding you utterly disgusting, like intensely heinous? Why does that not stay your hand from insisting? But that's just the thing. People who are involved in sorcery sometimes walk in such an exquisite irrationality. They become neurotic, they have a psychosis, a depth of it, such that there is no talking to them. You know, the stuff of mental illnesses, mental hospitals, where it is that a person has got to be incarcerated, institutionalized, put in a stray suit because no talking to them helps. It's what it is that I've been calling people to essentially repent from sorcery concerning, because who wants to be that nutbag? Who wants to be so psychotic? Who wants to walk in so a depth of extremity in a mental illness that, absent of a person understanding that this here is a war not against flesh and blood, but against rulers and principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places and authorities, etc., right? Absent of a person getting that, you are facing the slam. But like for psychiatric patients, you are facing incarceration for being crazy. These are human beings that are being offered an olive branch by a Christian who gets that they don't have a mental illness. They have a demonic possession. And when then you've been growing up in the church and you know that this is a reality, it's not like you are deceived into thinking that you've just kind of lost your marrow, even in your bones. These past couple of years, you know you're demon possessed. Like you've got to know. When you have grown up in a church where people were out here, especially a charismatic church, gyrating on the floor, claiming to be vomiting demons. You cannot grow up in an environment like that and be convicted of your sin as a professing Christian practicing witchcraft and not imagine that your activity, your persistence, your coercion, the stuff that you are walking in is antagonized to your original character, your baseline, the way that you were once upon a time. And so therefore these changes ought to have been influenced by the fact that you're dabbling with witchcraft. Your personality has changed entirely. You have grown up in the church, so you know a lot more. You are without excuse than the regular person on the street that's only ever done sorcery without having seen the power of Jesus. Granted that that's a thing. You know you don't have a mental illness, but you do also know that you are significantly different from how you used to be. And that this new person is ugly, they are menacing, there is something ominous going on in them, and they are without any self-control. It is impetuous, it's petulant, it just does what it wants. It's autonomous in you to a point of driving you to a place that your body knows it doesn't want to go to, because it gives you so much entitlement and makes you feel like its thoughts are yours, that you then act on that, deepening your separation from God even further. Even though you have severe conviction that this here is sinful, you have got to see that you need deliverance. It's that basic. And the Bible says that if anything causes you to sin, gouge it out. If your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. If your ear, your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. So if a woman is stumbling you so severely, and if you've got such a big fat bad BADD crush on her, such that every time you listen to her speak, anytime you see her gesture, it spurs up something in you that makes you super evil and entitled. Yo, if you are a convicted man that does not want to find themselves one day weeping and gnashing their teeth for all of eternity because they can tell that God is warning them, repent or perish, you ought sever ties with that person's ministry. Get out from watching her, seeing as you have history with her, or in that particular space where you were fancying her and the two of y'all were at some point interested in each other. You will always see her that way. When you're still interested in her romantically, you will always remember rather the time when she was flirting back. You will always remember rather the time when she was smiling at you, when she was prepared to engage in a conversation concerning y'all being together one time. You will always just be stuck in some kind of a reminiscent space while she has just entirely moved on. She has moved on. And you being stranded in like 2012, 13, 14, while Karabo is in a severity of post-traumatic stress in 2024, after having endured just a plethora of psychosis from many such men as these. Yeah, you ought recognize the cognitive dissonance that you are walking in, the exquisite one at that, of imagining that this here is feasible because it once upon a time was. There is a division. There is a gulf, some kind of a gap created between reality and impossibility, the gap of which this man is trying to bridge with there once was a time. Literally that once upon a time is messing with this man's instruments to a point where use the Bible to cure yourself from yourself. If anything causes you to continue to sin, gouge it out, cut it off. You know, this dude, I'm speaking like this because I frankly was so livid. I was so angry. I was so mad. I was so feverish with little mini, like, unadulterated horns practically coming out of my head demonically because of my desire to repay evil for evil, because I was out of my mind, was angry at especially his little endeavor, him in particular, because The first time he tried this heinous stunt at God, understanding from the Lord that there was conviction there. There was conviction. And he tried to walk away. And for that thing to come back, for me, it's like, I'm gonna deal with you, dude, the way that I deal with all these other menacing creeps. Like Animal Farm. All animals are equal. But some animals are more equal than others. Frankly, that's how God operates too. Y'all need to get that. All human beings on the earth are equal. But some people are more equal than others. It is littered across the scriptures that while God is not a respecter of persons, he very frankly it is within his prerogative to favor some of us above others. So we are not all made equal in God's favor eyes, even though we're made equal in his, just in terms of, just in terms of the nature of creation, of created things, of form, what is it called? Ontological, right? Ontologically, we might be made equal in the sight of God, but spiritually, metaphorically, and just in terms of favor and whatnot, we are not. It's like I said, it's littered across the scriptures, and so I deal very differently with different people based on the sentiment that I keep getting from God. The sentiment of which is often given me eyesight. The sentiment of which is what I'm trying to explain to you guys is that sometimes God very simply warns me not to be too harsh with some people. How can I describe this further? This might not be a very comfortable topic for some, because a lot of people want to believe in this God in their own making that just embraces everyone, like come one, come all, and it's all like, yeah, the kumbaya, camaraderie, like you can do whatever you want. God has, it's littered across the scriptures that some people he gives more favor than others. Other people he gives second and third and fifth chances, while others he just judges them straight away. It's just the way that he is. He is in the heavens, he does whatever he pleases. He can do with the pottery as the potter what he wants. He can make one vessel of honorable use and the other of dishonor. It's within his prerogative, which is why reverence for God is so important. You ought look at him with reverence, because you are not always David. You could literally just be Saul. You could find yourself in the position of Judas instead of Peter. Both people low-key betrayed Jesus. Peter rejected Christ 3 times before the rooster crowed, and yet the one was restored to God while the other one was allowed to perish. If anything, his condemnation was written about long ago. Jacob I have loved, yet Esau I have hated. I did a video of that nature the other day, speaking about the difference between the prodigal son and the person who is the pig that returns to the vomit. That returns to the mire after it has been washed, alongside the dog that returns to eat its vomit. And how it is that they're crucifying the Son of Man twice. What is the difference between a person that muddies his garments and comes back and God cuts up a whole animal to celebrate because he's a prodigal son? What is the difference between the lost sheep that goes out wandering and God goes and leaves the 99 and fetches it, versus the person that has tasted the things to come and then goes back and wallows in the vomit, wallows in the mire and eats the vomit and is not allowed to come back again? I did a video on that. I'm not going to expand on the differences right now, but it has a lot to do with Jacob I have loved, Esau I have hated. And it also has a lot to do with whether or not you were born again at all, whether or not you were a son at all, whether or not you've actually been an illegitimate this whole time, never really saved, and so really you can't lay claim to the kingdom of heaven, versus you got born again and you backslid. You can't lose your salvation. So if you are actually a child of God, he will fetch you, he will discipline you, he will bring you back home. But you cannot act a fool around the kingdom of heaven, dancing around, dilly-dallying, disregarding a God who's knocking on your door, waiting for you to open for him that he might come and dine with you, play games all up in his grill, flailing like some kind of a magic wand in the face of God, while also claiming to be a Christian, and then anticipate that one day when you are nice and ready, you will go and repent. You might just find yourself like utterly and comprehensively, finally, once and for all, shut out of the kingdom of heaven, unable to enter in. I did a video of a severe warning of that nature. So, having spoken that briefly, really, because that's not that's not the message of this particular topic today. It's not what it is that I'm trying to get at. This discussion is not about that. Problem with people taking God's grace for granted. The issue here is in the fact that I had to be stayed. I had to be stayed from essentially responding to this dastardly menace the way that I tend to feel and respond to all these other dastardly menaces, especially the random, like, first come, first served, brutal vipers out here ruminating my ministry, thoroughly imaginative that I'm somehow up for grabs, and then casting spells on a complete stranger, a woman they don't know. You know how I can be so harsh towards them. I got stayed, and it's not the first time that I have been stayed from telling this guy proper black, you know what, like the rainbow, red, orange, yellow, blue, indigo, and violet. All different kinds of colors of what kind of nonsense he is. I was planning a message all day with all of the feverish anger in my heart of how to tell him where to get off in all of his reprobate state. And the Lord is the one that kept on giving me these visions all day of overkill. Visions of overkill. Essentially, him telling me, be gentler. Do not be so harsh and so extreme. Do not drive him to a point of essentially feeling like I don't give two hoots about him. Y'all need to understand, there are wicked and then there are wicked, okay? There are enemies of the cross and then there are enemies of the cross. There are Sauls on the road to Damascus and then there are just Sauls of David. There are Absaloms and then there are Samsons. People who act a fool, however some are given favor while others just ain't. And when you're dealing with Samson, God is sometimes just not going to let you finish him off, because what are you doing with Delilah anyway? Why don't you have any self-control? Hold your horses, for crying out loud. Stop walking around as a dastardly, careless, impetuous rando out here diving into the nether regions of prostitutes. Don't you know better? There are people you can talk to like that. And then there are others where God will tell you, if you discourage this person, they will be lost for good and I will not have it because they're mine. And I was mad. I was angry. I was livid. I was blowing steam out of my ears because the Lord was staying me from basically dealing with this Samsonic rando, this Saul, en route to Damascus, like rando. It's like, yo, dude, you know what? Like, I don't have time for this. Don't nobody got time for this. And it's funny because, like, even the dreams that I get where I see him, the little bugger is always wearing white robes. And for me, it's like, how are you so grimy in that outfit? How are you so filthy in that outfit? Like, I don't get it. I got dreams of two different guys. Two doing the exact same rubbish. And yet one, God was like, oh. And then the other one, he said nothing. My anger is basically brewing and steaming at both. And I've got the right mind to tell them where to get off both. Yet for the one, God was like, angle it differently. Don't be so intense. Don't be so extreme. And I'm like, Yazin, uskatlong bora, dude. Leave me alone. Like, proper, why? If at all you have... The reason I'm so angry is because if at all there is the Holy Spirit convicting you of sin, you are not reprobate on that day. You haven't been handed over to your reprobate mind. God is patient with you. He's long-suffering. He is staying his hand from finishing you off. So, essentially, the little buggaboos with all of this incontinent, impetuous activity hopping about in these streets like up and down like a little kangaroo, feverishly imaginative that their little love spells will one day work. Yeah, they've got a bigger excuse than this guy. They are with more of an excuse for their impetuous, petulant activity, precisely because God has handed them over to their lusts. They've been given over to their basest passions. They've been made mongrels for the day of my trouble. For it is written in God's word that the Lord has set apart everything for its purposes, including the wicked for the day of trouble. However, if you have not been made a mongrel for the day of the trouble of the child of the living God, but you are to one day be among us, it means that God's Spirit has not just left and shut the door on you. Meaning you have a lot more conviction, a lot more sense that you think every single day. You are a lot less crazy than the rest of these anomalous beasts hopping up and down like kangaroos. And so therefore, to act like this is to make me madder, is to make me angrier. It is to make me more upset, because why am I spoon feeding and focusing on someone that has been given grace by the God of the universe, is sitting amidst churches, calls himself an elder in a church, and on top of that, God has not even written him off. He hasn't been written off, so he's got more than enough to run with. All these other buffoons on the left and on the right. Okay, fine, we get it. You're reprobate. But when you're not reprobate and you're still doing such strange things as these, you are taking God's grace ever more so for granted. So what then is absolutely and vehemently deserved by this individual is the kind of judgment that slapped David. Because this here is a David and Bathsheba scenario, and I don't know what's going to make this bugger stop, like proper. He needs the judgment of David to be pronounced on him, that he might understand just what a diabolical thing he has done. He needs a Nathan. He needs to be told that, dude, the sword will from now on never, ever, ever leave your household. You will keep on burying your children. You will never be okay again. He needs to have a judgment pronounced on him at that level. He needs a Nathan, and he ain't never gonna listen to me, because I ain't no Nathan. I'm just Bathsheba. He just feels entitled to me. That's it. And I mean, if at all he's feeling entitled to a woman, he's so bathing in a corner. That's what's good. Yeah, no. This dude is just gonna go grab the husband and kill him in battle, and then insist on marrying me. He's just gonna keep on killing my husband and insist on taking me. I'm a woman. He's not going to listen to the woman he fancies. He's not going to listen to the woman he wants. Some man needs to rock up, rise up from the woodworks, and give him a prophecy. Had not get intense. Somebody needs to get a dream about this dude. A man in the church, some prophet of sorts, needs to rise up, a bit of a Nathan proper. He needs a Nathan. Because he's not going to let, I'm just Bathsheba. He's not going to listen to me. I am the desire of his impetuousness. I am the woman he longs to have, even though I'm not his. I belong to someone else. I belong to another man. But he's prepared to put that person in the front lines of battle, killing my husband, that he might go and get his cake and eat it too. So, may the Lord rain a Nathan on him to pronounce a judgment so exquisite that he will grieve his entire life. He needs to be handled permanently by someone that's just going to call him out, because right now he's taking for granted that everybody is calling Karabo crazy. Everybody wrote her off. Everybody, etc. And her life pretty much sucks. So no matter how many times she might rock up here on YouTube talking about how it is that she knows what I did last summer because she thinks I'm a horror movie. Bottom line is, I'm gonna get my own. Because nobody listens to her anyway. Nobody watches her videos anyway. This man, I used to work with him at MT, and he is an elder in a church. So therefore, what he needs is humiliation from the church, where it is that a brother, it has to be a man. It cannot be a woman. He was a misogynist, like that dude. He was so unrefined. Like, that's the problem. Like, that is the issue with sticking around in a fluffy church with fluffy doctrine, albeit being Christian. Do you understand what I'm saying? It'll water you down. When you are sitting around in a fluffy church, it does not have power to bring you up. It's got power to bring you down. You're the one that's seated loftily above it, seeing as you're the saint in the room. But Christians, there's a reason why God says, come out of her, my people, lest you should partake in her place. When I was busy spazzing over this guy, I prayed for him so much because I wanted that guy. I loved him. I had strong feelings for this dude. I was prepared to be his wife, but I grew so feverishly in Christ that I noticed that he was in the wrong church. How was I going to get a man to leave a church when men are supposed to lead women? I tried to give him sermons and little USBs and all that random stuff that he might recognize that where he's sitting, he's not getting fed. He is not being properly shepherded. He is not being raised up to be the kind of man that he needs to be. This dude, he made me struggle so much. We had feelings for each other, but I had so many apprehensions. And the main apprehension that I had with him was lust, because I saw it. Never mind towards me, but other women. Like the dude had a wandering eye. He was like a periscope in the ocean out here, popping out of a submarine, scanning left and right. He could not hold his horses in the midst of women. If a beautiful woman came by, was scantily clad or fully dressed, he would like literally his whole neck out here making like an owl, would turn a 180-degree turn, could totally fall and trip and maybe even fall off a building, just like staring at a woman like that. And he would do that sometimes in front of me, and it would break my heart because I had feelings for him and he knew. He knew. I don't think there's anybody that didn't know that the two of us were feeling each other. It was obvious. It was observable. It was clear. But he's the one that wasted time. He thought that there's more where I came from, etc. Just dilly-dally, playing around, dancing around. And he was older than me by almost a decade. So I don't even know why in the world he was wasting all that time. It's not like he was a spring chicken. That's what this dude used to be. He would stare at women. And sometimes I would be doing my own thing. And then there was a time when we were working together. It was me, him, and some other colleagues. And I, for like a brief second, looked at something. I took like, I don't know, I was on an iPad or whatever. And this dude literally stopped, like he walked slower than the rest of us as we were walking. Just so he could stare me down my back, like to look at my back side. And I was already a Christian at that stage, quite consecrated. And so while if I was in the world, that would have flattered me, it turned me off because I was now really serious with God. And I was like, I like this guy. And he is a Christian too. But I cannot have a man, especially one that has not even pursued me. He has not yet done anything. I can't have him look at me like that. He is not exercising self-control over his lust. And on top of that, I wasn't the only one. I had seen him do this. He literally walked slightly slower so he could scan my body as I was walking. And he did this with so many other women in front of me, to a point of, like I said, breaking my heart because I liked him. And I was like, how am I supposed to marry a man that is going to do this to me when we go shopping for groceries at the mall? I will go home in tears because of all the women he's going to stare at. Because of all the women in the aisles where we are shopping that he is going to essentially trip over the cereal just because he cannot concentrate on what he's doing. This is the man that's going to shadow me. And I remember even thinking, I have never in my life had a boyfriend while I was in the world, right? Lost, unregenerate. Everybody out here still lost in these relationships. I've never had a boyfriend that was like that. I once dated a dude that was like a super duper player. Yet, however, strangely, this little player respected me when we were at least together. He never used to look at other girls when we were together. His eyes were always on me. But of course, I would hear of these like big fat stories whenever we were not together. Type establishment thing. I was like, even my player ex never did this to me. He never stared at other girls while I was with him. This dude is going to break my heart. He's going to break my heart. And yet he is a professing Christian. He's a professing Christian. What in the world is going on over here? He had a problem with lust. And I don't even think he's conquered it because he's still busy. Ikorobela is rooted in lust. And now I know. I think I know why. Like, never mind. I think I know why. Like, sorcery, it just worsens a problem that a person has. Well, when you are sitting in a church that does not focus on raising men up in the admonition of the Lord to be godly, to love their wives as Christ loved the church. And this man grew up in the youth of the same church, etc. From the time he was a boy, they were supposed to teach him how to be around women, how to be around girls, how to treat them, how to be chivalrous, how to be a godly young man, a godly young teenage man, moving into a godly young adult, growing up then to go out there in the world and conquer it. He was supposed to get raised up by men that would hold him accountable. But when your doctrine is fluffy and sexual sin is only ever taught against at like camps, children's church camps, but they don't really like raise it a lot in like Sunday services, they don't like proper. This man was not discipled. That's what I'm getting at. He was not discipled. He was not discipled. He likely got regenerated and it just got stuck there. Was maintained as, what do you call this thing? Like a spiritual milk. And when you chill on spiritual milk for too long, you will become complacent. Do you understand what I'm saying? You will become super duper complacent in sins. You will just let them glide, especially when you are making an observation of everybody in your periphery having not too many qualms with it. I mean, the church that dude used to go to, they would tell in premarital counseling, they would tell couples who had been in the church the whole time. They had been members of the church the whole time. They were there they'd been churching together for all the years that they'd been dating. They've been going to that church. They would counsel them at premarital counseling. 2, if they're staying together, 1 must go back to their parents' houses so that in the run-up to the marriage, they're celibate. That's what they would tell them. They would tell them, y'all know that you were not supposed to have sex before marriage, right? So with that being a thing, you have to move out of your apartment where you stay. One of you has to move out and move back in only once you're married. That is not church discipline. If you read first or 2 Corinthians, it's written therein that cast the immoral man from among you out. Cast him out. Rebuke him. First and foremost, when you catch him in adultery, rebuke him. 2 or 3 witnesses, all that jazz. And if this Okie still doesn't listen, literally cut him, sever him out of the church. That is true church discipline. So there should be absolutely no room accommodated at all in a church for fornication, knowing for like as an understanding that somebody is actively involved in fornication. There were members of the ministry of helps in that church that were fornicating, living together, and everybody knew it. Gay men and women out here serving in the ministry of helps, outwardly gay, with gay lifestyles that you can find on Facebook. And nobody was calling it. They were teaching children in Sunday school. These outwardly gay people in this church. But when it comes to like serious things, like we're about to get married now, they would then counsel live-in couples to separate for the duration of time that it would take for them to finally get married. Then only are they going to be doing things right in the sight of God. No discipline. So I mean, if you are growing up going to Bible home cell study groups and like heading youth groups and basically just kind of churching in a community of that nature, in a church community of that nature, where your sexual sin is merely frowned upon. It is merely frowned upon. It is not such a serious offense that you can get somebody excommunicated from a church because of it. Honey, then you're gonna fornicate as a teenager and be like, Ish, I wish I didn't do it. My church feels like this is not right. You're going to do strange things. You go in and dabble with sorcery and then trust that heinous doctrine, those doctrines of demons and those destructive heresies that they teach you, that, you're not saved by works, but by faith only. It is the free gift of God, which is true. But goodness gracious, we all know that if you do not bear any fruit, you display, and so not bearing fruit, that you are not saved at all. So there is no proper handling of God's word, no proper training and teaching, instruction in holiness. And because there is no proper training, teaching, and instruction in holiness, these young men and women then imagine that it's okay to just dabble with witchcraft, because after all, I've said this in this prayer. And then they use, never mind God Almighty as a barometer for holiness, but each other. And when then your fellow church mates are out here cohabiting, fornicating, however, prepared to seasonally be celibate for the 3 months in the run-up to their wedding, you then are also not going to see any qualms with fornication. I remember one time I asked his friend, because I was crashing on him. He was crashing on me, but I wanted to see if it was worth my while to crash back on him. And I asked his friend, would this dude be prepared to... I pretended like I was asking for another girl because I didn't want anybody knowing, even though it was obvious, it was observable that I liked him. I asked this boy, is he prepared to wait for sex after marriage? Right? Is this guy... yeah, I said something of that nature. And this guy responded immediately, because he had been in conversations with this dude. He was like, yeah, no, he's willing to. He's willing to. The answer was that he was willing to. I'm sorry, if you're willing to wait for a woman to have sex only after you are married, on that day, you are not holy. You're not supposed to be willing to. It is supposed to be non-negotiable. It's not that, okay, look, I like her, she's, godly, so I'm okay with not having sex all the way up until marriage, but, just in case she wasn't willing to, just in case she's one of those, come on, we're gonna do it anyway. This man was not going to discipline me, gently let me know that this here is a sin against God. He was not going to lead me by letting me know that this here is sexual immorality and God said we must flee from it. We are not to be having sex before marriage. It's not an option. It's not that one doesn't want to do it, the other wants to do it. And since God highly recommends that we go out like this, then maybe we should probably stick to it. It is a non-negotiable. It's a non-negotiable. Do you understand what I'm saying? And if a man is willing to wait for a woman to have sex only after marriage, red flags. That ought to have been a red flag for me. I ought to have seen that if this dude is willing to wait to have sex only after marriage with me, then maybe potentially he's just having sex at all. Even now, he's allowing himself to have sex. He's just letting it happen because somehow it's just going unnoticed. It's gliding freely, flying like a bird in that church. That is the problem with sitting around as born-again Christians in these fluffy, seeker-sensitive churches. You will stick around on spiritual milk, not be around strong enough believers for you to literally justify sin until God has to stay Karabo from basically punching a person in the face because she is fed up with his attempts of going back to the drawing board, doing things that are an abomination to a holy God who is jealous for you, who will not share you with any other gods. These golden calves you keep on building in the wilderness, he has beef with them, massive qualms, and yet you have no reverence enough for him to seize yourselves from doing such a thing as that. You will end up like Korah in that rebellion and get swallowed up by the ground. Your judgment is feverish, especially when you are close to the light. You cannot just continue to walk around dilly-dallying in these streets, hopping up and down like a kangaroo, sitting around in seeker-sensitive churches, walking in all different kinds of grand abominations in the sight of God, and justifying your behavior with other mere mortals whose standard of holiness is based on some fluffy pastor whose theology is messed up. Literally looking at each other, kumbayaring, when it's made clear in the scriptures that the road is narrow, that leads to life, and few people find it, few. So all these masses, these mega church parishioners that you're always in the midst of breaking bread with every so often in Bible studies, however, not at all convicting anyone of any sin at all. They are not your standard by which to gauge your godliness. God is God. And if at all, there is a very consecrated Christian, perhaps them. Like Paul says, that if I'm following Christ, then follow me. If at all you've got a believer next to you that is actually very serious with God, you ought then, at a minimum, at best, you ought emulate Christ. And at least emulate pious Christians. Seeing as there is a standard, a holiness without which no one will see God. And seeing as none of us do good, no, not one. For all are altogether worthless. We have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And we're always making war with this body of death. Christians cannot 100% therefore be like Christ. But those that are truly consecrated to the Lord, like Jonathan Edwards, out here walking around in resolutions to be the holiest man in the land, if there is somebody in your midst that is like that, if you cannot then fashion yourself against Christ, look at them as an example. And if you fall short of their example, how much more then do you fall short of the glory of God? You cannot be using some fluffy conglomerate of parishioners in a seeker-sensitive church as your barometer to gauge your own holiness. I tried to get that guy out of that church. I did. I tried. I gave him I gave him a highlighted and super marked and note written in it version of Arsis. Like, I bought myself a copy and him, and I gave it to him one time when he was in hospital. Arsis Brau's Holiness of God, and I had like highlighted it, written notes in it, all different kinds of stuff in it to help him just basically focus and hone in on certain things. And I gave him that book as, reading while you're bored here in this hospital, to help him understand that God is holy. He is holy, and you cannot be what you are in his midst and be taken seriously. You are going to be found severely wanting. I gave him that book. He read it. He was like, it's an excellent read. And really, all these years down the line, he's still doing witchcraft. Seriously, you read all those stories about Eli's son out here getting burned for burning an evil sacrifice in the sight of God, and you still don't see yourself as one burning an unholy sacrifice in the temple of God. You don't see yourself as that. You don't see yourself as touching the Ark of the Covenant in some kind of way that's going to get you killed instantly, stricken down to the ground instantly. You don't see that. You don't see that. You don't see that. You do not see the holiness of God as anything. The Holy Spirit dwells in you, so therefore he ought lead you into all truth. And if at all he's leading you onto all truth, and you still go back and you do sorcery, but you are apparently his, whoa, on that day, you're grieving the Holy Spirit. And now you are making like David trying to take Bathsheba. I can't. Like a prophet literally cannot. I can't deal. I cannot handle. I am having a hard time taking this in my stride. I can't stand this rubbish. Like, I can't. It's one thing to deal with all of these other dastardly buffoons walking around YouTube out here thinking a woman is up for grabs, testing all different kinds of strange spells because they've been these prolific Satanists the whole time. But then to deal with somebody that is just a muddy, grimy prodigal out here perusing the aisles of brothels while he's got a perfectly feasible home with a dad that is mourning, grieving, a son that just is out here muddying his garments. Hey, what a reptile guys are. It's like I don't even know how to deal, guys. I don't know what to do. This guy's playing Hangman. Do you understand? Hangman. Have you played that game, Hangman? You know how you make one little mistake and you draw a little gingy. You draw a head, and then you draw a neck, and then you draw like one arm and the other. If at all you finally 100% draw the whole body, that's when you get hung. You can't lose your salvation, but I feel like this dude is playing Hangman. He's playing Hangman, and he keeps on adding a new limb. He keeps on adding a finger, a fingernail. He keeps on adding a head of hair. He keeps on adding a torso to this body on this noose, finishing himself off. He is finishing himself off. He is in dire need of Nathan, and I pray that one would raise up from within his midst in that very cantankerous circus-like church that he attends, because every so often there are gems in an environment that just don't make sense. And be like, dude, I got a dream about you, that you're involved in some stuff, and there is a woman that you just won't leave alone, and she's a daughter of God, and you have added a great deal of pain and sorrow in her life. And if you do not stop doing this strange thing, much harm is going to come your way. You are going to be derailed. Not only that, thanks to all of your nonsense, the sword will never leave your household. This dude needs to be given he needs to be pronounced on him a gargantuan judgment by some man in the church. He is not going to listen to me, I'm a woman. He is not. He has always had a streak of misogyny in him because he never got trained up on true godliness. He's one of those using Christianity as a means to basically rule women over with an iron fist, lord it over them with an iron fist, make them feel like they need to be subservient to men without listening to them, lest their prayers should be hindered. It is no wonder he ended up having to turn to sorcery to get a job, because of the fact that if he was walking in all that compromise in the first place, likely his prayers were hitting a ceiling in heaven, because his life was just so messed up. In the sight of God, he was not pleasing. And so his prayers were just hindered. And now he's actively participating in the mutiny against the woman, putting himself in the same big old bad crowd as all of these monsters. The man that I just described to you now, who endured his wife through all that trauma. Woman waking up in a marriage to discover that, goodness, my husband is diabolical. Yeah, this man is thoroughly trying to be compared to beasts of this nature. Like, dude, you just heard me describe some animal that is out here married to a woman doing some extreme rituals, human sacrifices, diabolical from here to the nth degree, exponential incline in all things Beelzebub. Yeah, and you are chilling in a camp with all those monsters. The men I am describing to you, dude, are you listening to me? Except not, I'm Bathsheba to you, so you ain't listening. You ain't hearing. But anyway, I'll speak anyway, lest there should be somebody else here convicted of truth. You know the kinds of men I describe in my ministry. You know. There is a dude that is so prolific in his like little demonic cult that the other day I described a ritual that he did involving his seminal fluid, binding it together with dollar money alongside some blind cleaner thing, telling his minions that don't let her go unless she comes out, unless she embraces that the only way that she's ever going to make money and leave her mother's house is if she sleeps with me. Like a man out here doing a sex ritual over paraphernalia. And then I dream about it. He's like a head honcho, wealthy dude that's made a whole bunch of his money, tenders and everything, from the occult type of men to kill in order to get a tender to go through. And these men are so violent that when a woman is like, no thank you, allow me to communicate this to you, then he's like, okay, gay, little dog, die. I am currently trying to come out of, survive, human sacrifice rituals done on me by these kinds of men. Like a little bit of an Oscar Pistorius, just killing Rieva just because he can. A man that gets angry at a woman, and because of all of that anger, just decide to kill. No restraint, no self-control at all. Men who feel so entitled to women that when they don't want to be with them, they just want to kill them. They just want to kill them. Like this man, you never cast a spell to mess with my career so I don't get okay in life. You just messed with me romantically because you were jealous for me. These are the kinds of men that are prepared to pull the rug from underneath my feet, make sure that I have no two front teeth, make sure that I'm groveling around to a point where I'm being skinned by sandpapery gravel on the ground, so that I can finally be like, okay baby, please help me. The kinds of men that are prepared to incarcerate a woman in a basement until she says yes. Evil, diabolical men that are prolific in the occult. Some of them are amateurs, but despite that, they've done death spells. The guy in America, he burns candles. And at the end of those candles, I've got to be dead. And he has burned I don't know how many of them, and they have not prospered. Those are the kinds of men that you are literally clumping yourself with. The kinds of men that are out there responsible for gender-based violence in the country. Men that because a woman doesn't want to date him, and he works with her in the office, he will destroy her career. Next thing, she's losing her job and everything, and she doesn't know why it's going on. You are clumping yourself with those beasts. You're clumping yourself with the kind of people that do human sacrifice rituals just to get a job promotion. You have put yourself in the same category as the man that I've just described from Brother Nash's channel, African Confessions, where the wife is writing in on some, I think my husband is evil. I think my husband is evil. You are now just one of them. Because I got a dream of you thoroughly afflicting me because I rejected your attempt to come into my life after afflicting me with sorcery. First and foremost, when I was fired from MT and given a whole bunch of grief, unlike when I visited you in hospital, you did not even come through to see me. You will remember what is written in Matthew 25, but then again, you've been sitting in the church reading all these scriptures and disregarding the poignancy of them all. You have not allowed the word of God to quicken you. It's living and active, sharper than a double-edged sword, and yet it has done nothing in you because your ground has been hard. The Bible says, when I was hungry, you did not feed me. When I was naked, you didn't clothe me. When I was in prison and sick, you did not visit me. When I needed hospitality, you didn't let me in. When I needed a drink of water, you did not give me one. When I was thirsty. And you will ask God, when I did not do that, when did I not do that for you? And Christ will say, you didn't do it for Karabo, so you didn't do it for me. When you were in hospital, I visited you. Yet when I lost my job, because of the fact that I suddenly was gone out of the organization and you realized how godly I was and you got jealous for me, you saw it fit to gloat over me, over the woman that you did marry. So that's the first problem. You have a wife that you're either trying to leave or you've already divorced. And secondly, you blocked me from marrying right. You wanted to make sure that I don't get right in romance. And I was already suffering. Not only that, you also corroborated and helped along with the gossip in the rumor mill about me. All that reviling, Matthew 5, it is written therein, that blessed are you when men revile you and say all different kinds of strange things against you on account of the name of Jesus. Great is your reward in heaven. These people were reviling my name despite you knowing differently and better. And because you were an embittered man that wasted 20 million years to pursue a woman that was obviously drawing circles on the floor around you. Because you took 20 million years. When then you realized that she slipped out of your hands and she's the one who got away, you decided that it is better for her to be reviled and treated like a worthless woman in these streets than for me to have to admit to myself that I lost a good girl until the company treated her like trash. You literally spoke with the whole company about me like I was nothing. When I visited you in hospital, I was just sending you USBs with David Platt's sermons. I was just sending you books that you might understand you're not holy enough for a Christian. I was there for you. And all you could do when I lost it all was kick me around. You have not walked like a disciple even in the slightest. When I was hungry, you impoverished me further. When I was naked, you stripped the clothes from my back even further. When I was in prison and sick, you did not visit me. If anything, you put me in solitary confinement. And when I was thirsty, you made sure that there is no water inside. If anything, you placed me in a desert. That's what you did. And according to God, when you do that to his disciples, you are as good as dead. You will be accounted a place with the unbelievers, the hypocrites. You will find yourself in an environment where you don't belong. If you are a lost coin, better go back home. If you're a lost sheep, better go back home. See this as God bringing you back home. If you're a prodigal son, cleanse your garments. Stop perusing the aisles of brothels. Stop drinking in some bars. Stop drinking sorcery and go back home. Go back home. Because right now you are persecuting the body of Christ. As a Christian, what are you doing? The end of all things is at hand, thus saith the Lord. Therefore, for the sake of your prayers, be sober. You are like a sleeping virgin. You will endure the tribulation if at all it happens. Otherwise, if you pass away in the state, I don't believe anyone can lose their salvation. But at this point, you are acting like Demas, who leaves us because he was never of us. The Lord rebuked me earlier today from speaking to you like you're one of these dastardly beasts into human sacrifice rituals. Apparently, you are not. You're just some no, you're not a reprobate. You're a delinquent. You're a stubborn, recalcitrant, beastly Christian. I don't even know how that even exists in one ecosystem. But you need to go back home. You need to go back home. Even to the wife that you have left, you need to be reconciled to her and stop salivating over some woman that doesn't belong to you. If at all you want to be married that badly, reconcile to your wife. Go back and enjoy the breast of the wife of your youth. Make her an honest woman if you're upset with her. If you feel as though she's not godly enough, then make her godly. It is your responsibility to teach. Then again, the men in your church did not teach you. They did not train you. They did not raise you up in the admonition of the Lord. They did not help you along in godliness. And so now you're busy out here persecuting a Christian, a daughter of the living God, making her life a living nightmare. I got a dream where it is that you were basically, you did another spell. How many times you have to keep on going to the Sangoma to realize you don't belong there? For crying out loud. You did another spell to essentially make me regret passing you up. Desperate little bugger. Make me regret passing you up. Because I was still lonely, I was still going through it, and here it is that you were there. I saw a daughter in my dream, some yellow-boned child with 2 beauty spots on the face that you were raising by yourself because the woman was not there. Wherever the mom was, helping you raise that child. And you were trying to make me feel as if though, look, the 2 of us could be out here being responsible parents to my kid. It's your kid, not mine. First and foremost. And secondly, that kid needs a dad. If at all the mom is irresponsible, that kid needs a dad that's not concentrating on using sorcery, because one of these days you're going to lose your mind and not be able to take care of that kid. You are out here trying to make me a stepmom to a daughter when you can't even be a proper dad, because you are messing with your own mental health to a point where you're not going to be able to raise the daughter that I saw in my dream. I don't care to be that kid's stepmom, because I do not care to be your wife. I am not yours. I belong to another man. And if you think I'm Bathsheba, then may Nathan come and speak some sense into your head. You are walking in wizardry, stuff that Christians are not supposed to do because you're sitting in the wrong church. I try to get you to leave that church that the 2 of us might go into the sunset, find another church, do a better thing. But nah, you passed me up and then reviled my name when everybody was reviling me, kicked me like a soccer ball when everybody was kicking me like a soccer ball, and now all these years down the line you're trying to make me your wife, make me an adulteress, having abandoned, walked away from your first wife. Go back to the woman you were gloating and fronting all up in my grill, saying, Uguti, I found a wife. Dude, good for you. Apparently you found a good thing, so go back to her. Go back to her. Go and cleanse the woman that you feel is not good enough to be with a godly man. Because herein lies the deal, you're not godly. Not at this moment, you are not. The Lord would not let me speak to you anyhow, because apparently, allegedly, you are better than that. However, you are no different from my ex-boyfriend. I dreamt about him too. In the same capacity. Yeah, now he was busy making me follow him around and I was a groupie. A groupie. Imagine that. Yeah, but my ex, God could not care less to rebuke me for feeling real vuss about him, because he's a reprobate. As for you, however, the Lord kept on being like, be careful. Why must I keep on treading lightly over some buffoon that is adding more insult to my injuries? More sorcery over my head. I'm already dealing with enough demonic attack. I'm not going to be dealing with the demonic attack of some person that God keeps on telling me, don't slap him so hard. I don't want you. I don't want any of you. And right now you are literally being bunched together with some of the most heinous men on the planet. Some of the most diabolical beasts belonging to a cult that's destroying South Africa. Trying to make sure that women in this country cannot thrive, cannot succeed, because they are running some kind of a monolithic patriarchy for the devil, where it is that women are restored to nothingness, that they might rock up and orchestrate their release, creating a Hegelian dialectic, diabolical beasts that are millionaires and billionaires. And you're not that thing. However, you are clumped in the same space. Men who feel entitled to women. And I keep saying this over and over again. Rufis, korobela enzowe sebedisa. It is rape, dude. It's forcing a woman to be with you when she's not interested anymore. If at all she doesn't want to be with you and you influence her with sorcery, it is roofies. She will wake up in the morning having slept with you, however, wonder, how did I get here? It's roofies. So stop raping, okay? You are David in the worst way with Bathsheba. So may the Lord pronounce an exquisite judgment on you, that you may never do this again. Psalm 51. Go and write your own version of Psalm 51. Mourn to the Lord. Beg him, grovel at his feet, lay yourself prostrate before him, become more reverent, and leave that dumb church. Forget about the fact that they made you an elder. Just get out. Leave. Because look at what it's done to you. You grew up there all your life from the time you were a child. So what? Look at how much it has made you so fluffy. Leave. Come out of her, my people, lest you should partake in her plagues. It is that church that's destroying you. It's you being maintained in a reputation for being alive even though you're dead from that church. It has ruined you. How in the world do you get born again, and how old were you when you got saved? And then at this late age, you were busy dilly-dallying around looking like the world, unable to even separate yourself from all of these worldly people, to a point where a Christian now can't even distinguish between you and all these dastardly beasts in the occult. You look no different from a high priest in the occult right now. You cannot let that be your status quo. For crying out loud. For crying out loud. Like, I do not care how grieved you are by the prospect of having lost me. Bottom line is, you wouldn't have even lost me if you were teachable. But you're the one that hardened your own heart. You made yourself stubborn. You would have been able to see me for exactly what I was, but you weren't able to see it. You literally clumped me together with all those other chicks, all those other skirts roaming around MTN that you kept on ogling and gawking at, proper spirals of hypnosis in your eyes every time they would walk by, crushing the heart of the woman that could have been your helper suitable. Well, that did not happen. Now take it in your stride, move on. Deal. You lost me, you lost your shot, you lost your opportunity. And when you had a chance to call me, because Karabo, I heard you got suspended. You didn't. You just decided to go and clump together with all those other buffoons and speak smack about me. And now you want to come and provide for me. I lost everything, dude, because of people like you. Witches, saboteurs, liars, revilers, false witnesses. And now a woman is 10 years deep into poverty, struggling to come up for air, struggling to do anything for herself because of people like you. You have contributed to the decimation of the South African economy. People like you that use sorcery in order to get ahead are actively destroying your own nations, the very fabric of your countries. You are going against that which your God is good. He created this earth and said that it is good. And you've taken all that which is good about your own country and ruined it. You have made a Christian nation pagan. You have embraced all different kinds of strange gods and anticipated that God is going to be content with you when you pass away. Repent, do better, or perish. Do you understand? It is actually, quite frankly, an abomination that you're getting rebuked by a woman, seeing as you're so misogynistic. It is an abomination that you're also getting rebuked by the very woman you helped grow in Christ, because she liked you so much that she sought the Lord's face to make her the kind of bride that a godly man would like. And then only to wake up and realize that you're not godly enough when she got straightened up in Christ. That's how bad your situation is. You are David. The sword is not leaving your household. Do you understand? If you do not repent, you will perish. Don't say I didn't warn you. If you want to continue to get clumped in the same group as my ex-boyfriends, all these randos in but they don't do anything else beneficial in these streets, go on, carry on. If you want to be banked together with the rest of these unseemly buffoons, swela bill. Don't say I didn't warn you. I'm signing out in Christ's name, Cran K. Bye.